Catherine is going to speak with Steve Bywater. So welcome to Steve. He is the Supporting Families Strategic Manager at Westminster City Council. It's lovely that you're with us, Steve. Thank you so much for coming and joining us. And so we're going to hear from the other side. What is it like as somebody from the statutory sector, the local authority, getting involved with family hubs and churches?
Thank you, Paula. Well, Steve, you're in a very powerful position here. You've just heard what Jenny said, and you've got the last word. So let's crack on. Start off just by telling us a little bit about what you do, what your role is.
Just first of all to say, Jenny, a really valued partner locally. We've been really instrumental in kind of getting the sector involved with the family hubs that we've started to develop in Westminster. And I might actually mention later on a bit of work that I've been doing with her recently, which really valued her support with. It's not very interesting, but quite important. My background is I'm Supporting Families Manager in Westminster, which is what we're now calling the Troubled Families Programme, which was referred to earlier by Rachel. And Westminster got something called earned autonomy through the programme, which meant that we were given the privilege, I think, of being able to invest quite a lot of funding upfront into our early help system. And one of the main vehicles we used for that was our Family Hub programme, which we've had developing probably since around 2016, but the actual buildings and entities since 2018. So that's broadly where I've come from. I should probably say a bit more about that investment. So what we spent some of the funding on was some training, a workforce development program, which was a really helpful thing, I think, for us to kind of get a range of different practitioners, similar sort of skill bases, but also to get partners involved with what we were doing. We had ready-made partners in a way out there that we already had good relationships with, but this was something else to offer to them. And also develop some roles as well. We got a role of a family navigator, which is based in all of our hubs, doing initial direct work with families, again with partners and sort of linking them into that.
Brilliant. Tell me a bit more about Bessborough Family Hub, because I know that's your first one. And I think because we started with the Yeovil Family Hub, which run by church, is really helpful to everyone. If you can tell us a bit about what a local authority run looks like.
Okay, well, Bessborough is based in Pimlico, which people might know, right next to the tube station. It's an old maternity building. It's got the old inscription from about 1930, I think, on the front, but it's sort of housed a range of different professionals over the years, but with the development of the Family Hub, we brought the children's centre function, which was previously in a school, up a set of stairs down the road into the building, so that's more accessible. We've got health visitors based there, we've got a GP surgery, the early help service, the sort of council early help service is based there, and also social workers, and a range of other professionals that come for sessional support for families, including people like shelter, to do with housing support, the employment coaches for parents that want support into employment, CAMs. We also had the birth registration function there for a while. I think that's coming back after not doing it during lockdown periods. So a lot of agencies based in the same place. And also a lot of activities for families, and that's grown up over time. So things like stay and plays, various sessions for where families can bring their children in. The other thing I should say is it's now a 0 to 19 or potentially up to 25 service, as opposed to what we were doing purely through children's centres. And another part of that sort of network is youth hubs, which we've got, I think, 5 across the borough. 2 of them are linked in with Bessborough. They're youth clubs, probably, I don't know, probably 400 yards on either side of that building. So a place that young people can go into, which is young people friendly, but the aim is that parents can get support through the Family Hub, including for teenagers if that's what they need. It's been a really fluid situation in a good way, in that we've constantly grown the range of agencies that are based or working as part of Bessborough over time. A recent addition, for example, might be the library service. So the library manager takes part in meetings around the Family Hub. and most importantly, voluntary and community sector organisations who, I think, harking back to what people were saying earlier, it feels like they've always been there and they always will be there. Sort of big, sort of church or faith-based linked organisations such as the Cardinal Hume Centre and St Vincent's Family Project, who provided a range of different support for children and families for a long period of time. The other important thing I should say about the hub is that we have an integrated leadership team, which is planning and organising what goes on there. And that includes pretty much all of the partners that I've just been talking about. Aiming to work towards a kind of shared model, I think, for families. So no matter who you go to get support for your family, you're going to get a broadly similar response. You don't have to keep telling your story. And whoever you choose to go to share whatever's going on in your family, they should know what's also available from other agencies across the area.
Let's, because of the time we've got, can we spotlight on the way you work with faith organisations? Because I think that's so interesting about how you make it work in Westminster. Give us the other side of the story from what Jenny's been given.
Okay. Well, it does feel, in some respects, they're almost a ready-made resource that is there and has been there for a long time. I think it's fair to say that we had pretty good relationships with them before we started to think about family hubs. And a feeling that they were connecting with people that we weren't. So Cardinal Hume works particularly, I think it started off focusing particularly on homeless people, homeless adults, but has increasingly thought about families that are either at risk of homelessness or just in poor quality accommodation, and trying to work with them to improve that situation. And that's kind of grown out into a more a kind of family support service, and they're based, probably I don't know, 10-minute walk away from the family hub. And then St Vincent's, similarly, in a way, that's in the Central Methodist Hall, which is just over the road from Parliament, working with families, providing family support, and also sort of therapeutic support for families as well. And I think it was it's probably a mixture of existing relationships that we've had with them, but also they aim to do things more together going forward. And the real strength of this, I think, is that they are in contact with people that we're not. We want interventions to be as early as possible. We want them to be provided by people that families trust and want to go and talk to. But at the same time, what we were offering, I suppose, was a wider structure for these organisations. What my sort of discoveries about them is that they are quite small compared to a big local authority where there's social workers and early help practitioners. There might be 3 or 4 people in one of these organisations doing the direct work with families. But they're very good at making those links. And the other thing that we've been able to offer them is sort of training, which sometimes they're highly skilled and highly trained. Sometimes they're people who are volunteering and just want to do something for their community. So we've given them access to multi-agency training, access to a network in the area, and actually in some cases sort of some opportunities for further professional development. And yeah, they're consistently willing to sort of get involved with things, I think, which we really
can I just say one thing you mentioned the other day was the fact that the training you involve it helps the people who are working with families know how to have the difficult conversations and how to know what to do with the results of that difficult conversation, so you keep that family safe and enable them to access the support that's needed. And I thought that was really encouraging, because some churches you worry about where the conversation is going to go and how you deal with what you uncover. And it sounds like you have a good history of that in Westminster. Am I right?
Yeah, it feels like that. I think with these integrated leadership teams, they set up panel systems. So the managers of the 2 organisations I just spoke to are part of that. So if they've got practitioners that are working with a family and they're concerned, they're not really sure where to go with it, they can take it to that panel and get a kind of multi-agency view. And sometimes someone will offer to get involved with that case and either sort of lead it or support the person that's already doing that. The other area that we've looked at is kind of how people who do work directly with with other people.
1 minute.
Had a supervised, and again, opportunities to do that as a group, as part of the family hub for practitioners who otherwise might feel quite isolated. So yeah, some good routes for people like that who need more support.
In the last few seconds that we've got, can you just, to be honest, some people are really positive about working with local authorities, some people are really sceptical. Can you give some tips which covers that breadth of feeling?
Yeah, I think I'd probably echo what Jenny was saying. You possibly need to keep chipping away sometimes and find the right person to talk to. But that said, I think there are some opportunities at the moment. Someone said to look at their aims of the authority, look at their early help strategy, look at early help. Every authority is doing early help in some shape or form. I would say think about coronavirus, the pandemic, and what's been done during that period. I think lots of agencies other than local authorities have found lots of people who need support, and where do you go next with that? And that all local authorities are talking about the recovery and how they do that. If they're going to do that well, they need to do it with partners.
Steve, we better stop it there. Have you got sorry, let you complete your sentence, but I could talk to you all day, but I must stick to the time.
And also, yeah, the Supporting Families programme, which is set up where I came from, that's got 4 elements. One of them is communities. So the government department that's leading on that is encouraging local authorities to think about who works with families, who has good relationships with them, how can you support them to support them better? So tapping into that might be a way in some local authorities where you haven't managed to find an inroad before.
Brilliant. Thank you, Steve. Thanks so much.
Thank you.